All right, it is 6 o'clock. We will go ahead and call this meeting to order. Nathan, would you take the roll, please?
Councilmember McPherson?
Here.
Councilmember Biggs?
Here.
Councilmember Laraway?
Yes.
Council President Bruce?
Here.
Mayor Steer?
Here, and if you'll join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. First item is we need to amend the agenda. Item 6C is a hearing, but it's not a public hearing. So we need to move item 6C to be in place of 7A, and 7A move to 7B. That is, 6C is the reconsideration.
I move we amend the agenda and move item 6C to item 7A, and then move item 7A to 7B.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And the next item is the consent agenda. Any questions or comments?
I move we approve the consent agenda as published.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion on that motion? Nathan, would you poll the council, please?
Council President Bruce?
Yes.
Councilmember Laraway?
Yes.
Councilmember Biggs?
Yes.
Councilmember McPherson?
Yes.
And that motion carries. That takes us to public comment. I didn't have anybody sign up to address the council. Is there anybody who wishes to that didn't get a chance to sign in? All right, seeing none. That takes us to public hearings. 6A is consideration to approve case numbers 2409AN and 2506-S. Troy.
Good evening, Commissioner, members of the council, and Mr. Mayor. Sorry for that. Troy B. Hunan for the record. CUNA Development Services Department. Now I'm really off my game.
It's been a while. We've been called worse, don't worry.
The applications before you this evening are requesting annexation of approximately 31 acres into the CUNA city limits, and they are proposing the R6 zone. The applicant is also requesting preliminary plat approval in order to subdivide this land into a 100-lot, single-family lot subdivision with 19 common lots. The site is located near the northwest corner of the intersection of Locust Grove and Meadowview Road. At the commission meeting, staff recommended that the applicant provide pedestrian pass-throughs, and those were specified. And at the hearing, the commission made it a condition. The applicant did respond, and they did provide that site plan, and those were included in the findings of fact, or the decision and reason statement at the back of that. So the commission did see that site plan, and they did approve it. Other than that, staff has reviewed the proposed annexation and the pre-plat for compliance with CUNA City Code, Idaho State statutes, the CUNA Comprehensive Plan, and should the council approve the application, staff recommends that the applicant be subject to the proposed recommended conditions that are listed in staff's report. I'll stand for any questions, and I know that Jaden Schneider is with the applicant, and they are here tonight and have a presentation, but I'll be here if you have questions.
Okay, any questions for Troy?
No, sir, not at this time. Thank you,
All
Troy.
right, thanks, Troy. Mr. Snyder, you may have the floor if you'll state your name and address for the record, please.
Perfect, of course. Jaden Schneider with Bronzebow. I'm the applicant working on behalf of the developer. Address is 3770 North Jackie Lane in Boise. Let's see if I can grab this a little easier here. So So as Troy mentioned, this proposal is for Blossom Meadows subdivision. It's an annexation and preliminary plat proposal. Just as Troy mentioned there, it's about 30.92 acres. It's currently zoned RR, which is that rural residential area in Ada County. That would be the annexation with the proposed annexation zoning of R6. A couple things that I want to just touch on right away would be the CUNA School District. They've provided a letter of support. I'll get more into that just to kind of explain what we're doing on that side, but I want to talk about their support right there. Public Works, we've been working with Mike Borzik ad nauseum, and I'm sure he's tired of me calling him and sending him emails asking questions, but we do believe we found a position that is agreeable for Public Works with the proposed subdivision here. And ACHD has reviewed and approved the proposed development through their staff report, and that's in the packet as well. Just kind of high-level stuff to get into it. We had originally looked at this site from the developer's perspective as 177 total lots, which was smaller lots. After meeting with the city, meeting with staff, meeting with the neighbors, especially at the neighborhood meeting, they just said, hey, 177 is a lot. What can we do to trim it down to get back to this point right here? So what you see before you is the trimmed down version, which is 100 lots, and that came through a series of back and forth with staff and with the neighbors. So we're really happy with 100 lots. The average lot size over this entire project is about 7,500 square feet, so it's almost double the R6 zoning. It's closer to an R4 zoning for the entire site. So all the lots are much larger than the R6 minimum throughout here. So just kind of getting into it right now. Oh, sorry, I'll touch on this real quick. The access point for the site comes off Meadowview Road to the south, and this would be an extension of Strobel Road to the north. So Ashton Estates subdivision is on the west side of this property right now. They are building one half of a collector on their frontage portion, or what would be their frontage portion, on their eastern boundary. That abuts our western boundary. The proposal would be to extend Strobel Road as a collector road northbound, which is a mid-mile collector, and extend that through the property. So this would provide an access point to the site via this intersection, which Ashton Estates is building right now, and then provide that access point to the entire site. One thing that we've been working with is a secondary access point. That secondary access point is an emergency access point down in the southwest corner of the site. I've reached out to the fire department. I actually called them today because they hadn't responded back and given any comments yet. But Steve responded back that generally this does not have any concerns for them. Their comment was that if you have over 30 lots, they would like to see a secondary access. This secondary emergency access would be sufficient for them. So between ACHD suggesting that yes, this 100 lots can be serviced by one access point, and the fire department suggesting that yes, this can be serviced in case of emergency by this emergency access point off of Strobel Road, they'd be happy with that. So just kind of going out, if you went out to the site today, you'd see Ashton Estates being built. It's Ashton Estates number 8, if I'm not mistaken. It was approved at City Council on May 20th, 2025. Sorry, let me restate that. The final plat was approved as a consent agenda item on May 8th, or May 20th, 2025. So just a few months ago. So they are currently building, actually on my trip here today, I drove by it. They're putting storm pipe in the ground right now. So they're building out that phase right now to have that secondary, that access point, Strobel Road being built at this point. Ashton Estates, if you keep going further to the west, leads to the Meridian Road core, which is that commercial core right there, and to the north is the Lagarno Terrace subdivision. So we like this site. It doesn't look to us like it's on an island of a development way out in the middle of nowhere. It seems like it's congruent growth going from that commercial into existing subdivisions, and we're right up against that subdivision right there. If you look at the future land use map, you can see that the Meadowview Estates site is a medium density residential district. That's what we're proposing with that R6, which meets the medium density residential area. Ashton Estates is a high density area. Their zoning, I believe, is R8. It might be higher, but I think it's R8. So they're a high density zoning, and then that would also lead into the commercial. So kind of going the other way there, talking again about congruent development, we feel that this is appropriate development for that, and it meets the future land use map. Just from code, just reciting code here, the R6 would say that they want to see, or it wants to see 6 units per acre. We're well under that with, our net density is well under that, so we feel like we're well within the R6 zoning right there. Talking more about the CUNA School District support, generally high level stuff here. The developer went to the CUNA School District and basically said like, hey, how can we help? We've seen other subdivisions go through this before. Like, what can we do? The CUNA School District has provided the voluntary capital mitigation fee program. That's a assessment that they procured. They went through the process and hired out some consultants to figure out like, what can we do as the school district to work with developers to make development happen and work with developers. Basically, what it means is that they are asking the developers to provide a voluntary fee to the school district in order for them to be able to sustain growth. So that fee is, for this site, single-family site, would be $3,286 per lot. That's building lots, and that would be if there's school children ages or not. So all the lots would be hit with that $3,286 per lot fee, which the developer was happy to say, hey, we'd like to team up with the school district. You know, we're not trying to pull a fast one and work something past you guys without getting support from you. And that's just where their letter of support mentioned it. And, you know, reading straight from their report, because the developer has partnered with us, we can serve the students generated from this development. It speaks to the 177 homes. That was originally when we had talked about prior, but going back to it now, 100. We've talked with Tim Jensen since with the school district, and generally 100 seems just as fine as 177. As long as we're helping them, they can help us with this. Traffic considerations, we did have a traffic impact study put together for the site. It was reviewed by ACHD, ITD in the works. We have that support again. Just talking about what ACHD is doing on their own. To the north right now, ACHD in their capital improvement plan and their 5-year work plan have the following items going through. The Deer Flat Road is going to be widened to 5 lanes between North Locust Grove and Meridian Road. Multi-lane roundabout going in at the intersection of Locust Grove and Deer Flat, and then an expanded intersection at Meridian Road and Deer Flat Road. And those are all improvements that are taking place. If this subdivision were to be approved or denied, those would still be within the ACHD portion. But speaking a little bit more specific to the site, what the developer is proposing, again, they're proposing to include that connection for North Strobel Road, building out the rest of North Strobel Road, so it has that connection point to Ashton Estates, what they're building, which would provide them their secondary, or maybe third access point to Ashton Estates. So it's adding better connectivity for them, as well as the connection for Meadowview Road, and then increasing Meadowview Road to that 36-foot collector street with the 8-foot planter and the detached sidewalks. There was a letter that's in the staff report coming from a neighbor talking about traffic considerations and hey, is this going to cause a lot of traffic? What's it going to do? If you look into the traffic impact study, you'll see for the 100 lots, the average, daily, sorry, let me get this correct here. The AM peak hour vehicular traffic on that road, Meadowview Road, is assumed to be 50 cars from this site. So this site is assumed to add 50 cars to Meadowview Road. So that's coming from the traffic engineer right there based off of their study of the site. On that site right there, the person who had written the letter is to the east of the connection point of Strobel Road. And so we looked at, well, what would that be on Meadowview Road headed eastbound? The majority of the traffic is headed westbound on towards Meridian Road. The eastbound traffic would be about 10 of those cars. So the average of that vehicular traffic at the AM peak hour would be about 10 cars traveling eastbound. So we would suggest that we think it's a nominal amount of traffic added to that eastbound there. So we're hopefully in agreement with the landowner there that this is not something that's going to affect them tremendously, terribly, or anything like that. Open space, generally we have a number of open space areas throughout the site. As Troy mentioned right there, planning and zoning asked us to add in some additional walkway and connections throughout the entire site. We were happy to do that. It's good planning, it works well for us. City code calls for just about 7.5% of the site to be open space. That's 2.32 acres. The provided open space, the qualified provided open space is 3.96 acres, which is about 12.8. And I specify qualified open space because that does not include landscape buffers or things along Strobel Road or what would be along Meadowview Road. So that's just interior and larger areas that are dedicated as open space right there. So there's an over dedication of that open space as well as those larger 7,500 square foot lots. So generally it's large lots with good open space. One of the reasons the developer liked this site so much and is pursuing it is the fact that it has that congruent development that's close to the commercial core and provides that access point. It's just an interesting fact that when we were looking at the site right there, it's about a half a mile to get to the center of the Meridian Road core for that commercial area. I'm just about done if that's all right with council.
Yeah, go ahead.
So it's just about half a mile to get from the actual site to the core right there, and that would be on local roads, so that would be an easy connection through there. And then we still have that vehicular access on Meadowview Road and Meridian Road to get there. So we think it's a very walkable, bikeable area to get to those existing commercial areas, which there are a lot of. And then just to wrap up, I just wanted to again reiterate that we do have CUNA School District for support. We feel that we have support from the public works portion in regard to sewer and water. ACHD has reviewed it, and as Troy mentioned, we walked away with the recommendation of approval from planning and zoning, and we hope to walk away tonight as well. So I appreciate your time, and I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Okay, question?
Yes.
Yes.
One quick question. Is ITD talking, I know this is down the future. Are they talking about SIG putting a traffic control device at Meadowview and 69?
I haven't seen anything from ITD specific to that. They are at least not in our reports there.
Yeah, thank you.
And then I saw that in the, well, you go ahead with your question.
Oh, just a quick one. So you mentioned the fire department had mentioned that, is there a letter or anything? I didn't see it in the packet.
No, so I have an email back and forth from them. The only email that I ever got, I sent to them on the 15th, on tax day of this year, and said, hey, we have this coming up to council. It was brought up at city, planning and zoning, this was brought up. Do you have any comments? Scott, I forget his last name. Anyways, Scott with the fire department, who Troy gave me his contact, responded back like, I'll let you know if I have any questions. I just called him today because he never got back to me, and I was like, hey, I'm going to stand up in front of city council. Is there anything I can say? So no, I do not have a letter from them. I have my good word on it, but at the same time, because I spoke to him, I would feel confident that if you called him today and said, hey, did you talk to Jaden? Was this something that he said? He would be like, oh yeah, we talked about that at 1 o'clock this afternoon. So I don't have a letter, unfortunately. Just, he never got back to me with it, but I did bug him by calling his cell phone today.
And the reason I ask is because we typically have issues when there's not a full second egress
Totally.
out of a neighborhood, so, that I might have an issue with, but
Okay.
back to you.
And then I noticed that when Planning and Zoning Commission looked at that, they were talking about a top park for an amenity. Is that something that we're moving forward with on this? Or?
I'll have to confirm with Troy. I don't believe that it was ever a condition of approval that was brought up by planning and zoning and added in. But if council would like to do it, I believe that the developer would be happy to provide it if city council said, hey, like this is a deal breaker for us. We really would like to see a tot lot in here. I believe that that's something that the developer would be willing to provide. I don't believe that it got added in, but I can ask Troy.
I thought they even went right down to adding the lot where they wanted that, so, I mean, I could be wrong, I'd have to read back through their, you got their minutes, did they put it in there?
Fairly sure it's in the reason statement.
Troy, go ahead.
For the record, Troy Buchanan, I don't have that right with me right now. My laptop just died, but I can go look at it. If council wants to continue to ask questions, I can come back. But I do remember they were adamant about the open spaces, and I do remember that there being a tot lot discussion, and whether it was articulated as a specific condition, I don't remember that specifically. But there was discussion about it.
They didn't pass it with, they had with conditions as outlined in the staff report in addition to a playground equipment tot lot in block 9,
There you
lot
go.
1.
There you go.
Okay, all right, I thought I saw that right down to where it was going. so-
Perfect. Which we're still in agreement with. That's
Okay.
completely fine.
Good. Further questions?
Not at this time.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
This is a public hearing, and I didn't have anybody sign in to testify. Is there anybody who wishes to testify in this matter? Rocco, you may have the floor, please.
I guess the question I have is, we go through these traffic impact studies.
Mr. Rocco, can you state your name and address for the record? Thank you.
Yeah, sorry
Michael
about that.
Rocco, 1286 East 40 Erie Street in Cuna. So I don't know when the actual construction begins. Is it a year out? Is it 2 years out? And I'm sure that you could not, I don't know if there's a provision that you can say, well, building can't start for 2 or 3 years. But I find it interesting when IDT does their study for Meridian or HCHD does their study for the traffic studies for, in this area over here. That is going to not happen until another 6, 7 years. We're talking about the roundabout, and then the IDT is, we're talking about probably 7, 8 years too. And interesting that they always talk about the statistics of what it would be like if these improvements weren't made. So it would take 45 minutes to go from Deer Flat up to Overland. But they don't tell us what it's going to look like for the next 6 or 7 years. So the existing community continues to get bogged down with more and more traffic. So again, I don't know if it's more of a rhetorical question. I just don't know, when does this construction begin? And it's not just them, it's the various other constructions too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Was there anybody else who wished to testify? Okay, yeah, if you want to come back up for rebuttal and maybe answer that question.
As best I can. Again, Jaden Schneider, Bronzebow, 3770 North Jackie Lane. The traffic impact study is based off of all of the currently approved and existing homes, commercial, residential in total, conditions. And so that is modeled out as far as they want to do each individual site. So that this traffic impact study specifically would speak to this site, what conditions are being affected immediately and up to a certain radius because they can't go too far. But generally, this is what it would be modeled based off of. I might need the question asked again just to try to answer the specific question, but that's generally the high-level idea of how the traffic studies are compiled and where they would go.
Yeah, if you want to step back up to the mic and ask, that'd be good. Thanks, Michael.
Michael Rocco, 1286 East 4 Erie Drive. The question is when would the anticipated construction begin?
Sorry, thanks about that. The construction would basically start as soon as the developer could get their engineering approvals and everything to go forward. Realistically, it's probably somewhere between a 6 to 8 month process to go through all of the engineering design drawings, going through review agencies, getting them back there. So it seems like it's much more of a spring 2026, summer 2026 project by the time you get to these upgrades and things like that. So generally, that would be the ideal time frame. I'm sure the developer would like to go faster if they could, but generally with all the things that they have to jump through, the hoops and all the regulatory agencies that they have to get approval from to do it, it would be about, I always assume somewhere between 6 to 8 months before you realistically could have your pre-construction meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anybody have any further questions for the applicant?
Actually, I had a question for Troy.
Okay. Thank you, Troy.
Mr. Troy, is there, obviously there's not a representative from the school district to speak to us tonight. What's the timeline for you to update the letter? I saw we had one from 2024. Do you normally update it before it comes to council, or is that just?
For the record, Troy Buchanan, if I receive something, I put it in the packet immediately. I don't know why it's not showing.
But it's notified that it's coming before council and?
They were given an opportunity earlier this spring, to respond. I don't know why there would have been one from,
2024?
maybe there were ongoing discussions before the application really came forward, but the application really started at the end of the year last year. Didn't really get to the public hearing process till this year, but
I was just curious.
yeah.
Thank you.
I don't know.
Thank you. Anything further?
I'd like to ask
Yes.
Adam a question. Adam, it's been a while since we've really gone through the subdivision process that I can recall. You're saying you can support the sewer system on this project, and it's been a while since we've really talked about it. What pump station is this going to? Is it going to Patagonia?
Councilman Mallory, Adam Winger, City of Kuna Public Works. This ultimately should go to what will be Mason Creek.
It'll go where?
Mason Creek.
Okay.
Interim, I can't speak to specifically. I didn't chase that one down prior. My apologies, I just got back into town this week, I've been playing catch-up. But this will ultimately be serviced through that. So when we say Public Works can support this, there is a mechanism in place and planned that will provide this service. And the timing of that is such that this wouldn't be congruent, or would not be reliant on Mason Creek necessarily.
And I'm trying not to digress too much in this, but this is educational for me. What is the status of our system? I mean, do we have plenty of capacity out there? I mean, we have a lot of lots that are undeveloped, but we have plenty of room at the system to support these and other growth? Or are we redlining it every time we do something?
Sure. Redlining is not where we are yet. There is a red line. It's around 2031, 2029. If improvements are not made by then, most of our lift stations will be at that red line.
So we're about 4 years off.
If nothing else changes, if no improvements are made, that is correct.
But you're going to make improvements?
Absolutely, yes, sir.
Okay.
Is,
Thank you.
Yes.
is that with or without the trunk line being put in? Are you saying that we're 4 years out without the trunk line, or 4 years out with the completion of that?
Without. So that alleviates the stress off of 5 lift stations and then pushes that envelope from 31 to 50 or 70. Full build-out essentially, because they've been displaced by the gravity of the Mason Creek trunk line.
And we can service that prior to that trunk line going in, is what you're
Correct.
saying? Okay.
Correct.
And I have a question.
Yes.
For Adam. So, and also, are we assuming that 2029, 2031, is that if all of the already approved projects were to come online tomorrow? Or is this just projection of what we have now?
Councilman Biggs, thank you. That is everything that is on our radar, planned, upcoming, in progress, plus the extrapolated growth that we've seen over the last few years. If we assume that holds steady, that's where we would be. That's when we break even.
So like a percentage basically of the growth rate, I guess, because if 6,000 homes, which is what I think is approved but not developed, came on tomorrow, that might be an issue.
If they all came in tomorrow, I would be concerned. I wouldn't leave the country and just hope for the best for you guys, but, yeah, hopefully not tomorrow. We'll stagger that a bit.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Further questions?
I'm good.
I don't have any either.
Okay.
I move we close the public hearing and move to deliberation.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries.
And I'll go first. This might seem like a little odd situation we're in, but without a letter from fire, I'm more for tabling this until we get fire on board. That's just my opinion.
I don't like it either. I mean, I'm definitely, I could take James' word for it, but I feel that's a very important safety issue. But I would also, I guess I'll express it as, I wish the school district was here to talk about their capacity issues and the mitigation, throwing money at it without building anything. Are they gonna build I'm curious, are they gonna build a portable, or are they gonna put it somewhere in the school district that kids are gonna have another place? Because we've been told time and time again for the last 2 or 3 years, we're at capacity, we're over capacity. Well, I understand that the school district has their $3,000 per house that they want for mitigation, but I don't know, I guess I'd like an explanation of how that's mitigating it, because we're still gonna have those issues, and the kids still are city kids.
Yep.
I know they might say it's a school district issue, but it's a city issue too.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I think, you know, unless we find a way to actually give someone a seat, we're just contributing to the problem. And I've asked for a capacity plan from the school district for years, at least multiple years. What is the plan to deal with the growth? And maybe they have one, mobile units, buses, teachers, and maybe this will go towards that, but maybe we can get an updated letter from them since it is from
Well, that's where,
2024.
yeah, that's where the tabling idea, I think there's two things, and at least, there's two things at least that I'd like to see, if we were to do that.
And if I could play devil's advocate, I know we bring the school district up a lot, but their letters of approval or disapproval confuses me, because if somebody buys them a bus, all of a sudden they have approval and we have room. If we don't buy them a bus, we disapprove, we don't approve of this subdivision. So it's kind of confusing for me, and they won't clarify what their stance is. So, yeah, if they will come and explain that, I'm all for it.
You have anything? 2 weeks? Mr. Troy? Oh, can we ask him?
Yes, you certainly may.
Request the, school district to,
Does 2 weeks give you time to get the answer from the fire department and also the school district, or have someone here?
I can certainly throw that out. I mean, it should be. I mean, they've had several months. So I would think that just 2 more weeks would be more than sufficient.
Yeah, I would really feel more comfortable with something from the fire department.
Okay.
so it actually be for more than 2 weeks. Next meeting is, July 5th. I'm sorry, August 5th. This is one of those
That
weird
is
months.
correct.
One of those weird months.
You don't want to come in early, Councilman Biggs?
No.
No.
I'll do whatever you want. Mr. President.
I move we table the case number 24-09 AN and 25-06S until a date certain of August 5th, 2025. And if, Troy, if you could provide that stuff for us, that'd be good.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on that motion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And that motion carries.
Since the public hearing was closed, will it be a continuation of the closed public hearing at that next meeting?
Well, since we closed the public hearing, I think they're just asking for a comment from fire and school district, and
That's it.
that's it.
At least that's what I was asking for.
That's it. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is item 6B, consideration to approve case number 2407 AN, Star Acres. And Jessica.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For the record, Jessica Hall, Economic and Community Development, 751 West 4th Street, CUNA. The applicant requests annexation of approximately 37.5 acres at the subject site located at 5434 West Barker Road with an M1 light industrial manufacturing zone. This annexation is the third by Star Acres Properties. The first annexation of 65.5 acres was approved by Council February 7th of 2023, and the second annexation of 10 acres was approved by Council September 3rd, 2024. The intent of the accumulated annexation of these three parcels is to provide adequate acreage for development, by a future industrial user. The applicant and his representative are present this evening, and I am happy to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, questions for Jessica?
None at this time, but it's nice to see you. Haven't seen you in a while.
I have one question. This is all going to be up underneath the urban renewal area?
It has not been added into the urban renewal district.
not.
It has not.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. If the applicant would like to present?
William Edwards, acting planner for Star Acres Properties, 706 South Willis Avenue, Kuhn, Idaho. As Jessica pointed out, this is a simple annexation of property on the, this would be the corner of Barker and Curtis Road. Directly across the street is where Star Acres 1 and 2 reside and have been annexed into the city. The use we are looking for is an M1 use, which is compliant with the future use map approved by the city of Kuna. Again, this is just a simple annexation at this point in time. Once things progress a little bit further, we will come in for our preliminary plat design review as needed. But we're in compliance, or willing to be in compliance with all requirements that the city of Kuna is requiring for this annexation. Falls right into your future comp use map. And this is number 3. So we stand for any questions if you have any.
Okay, questions?
No, this is
Okay,
what we were
thank you
looking
very
for out
much.
there, so thank you.
I do have a clarification question for Jessica. If this property does not fall within the urban renewal district, are they going to have access to the sewer and the water that is already being applied out there under their urban renewal?
So, yes, they would still be eligible to connect to the system that is existing out there. It would be required as they're annexed into our city limits. The fact that they're not part of the URD does not negate them from having that opportunity.
Okay, thank you.
They just don't use the increment for building out the.
Okay. They have to fund their own. Okay, anything further?
Negative.
Okay.
Do you have anyone want to speak on this one?
What's that?
Did you have anyone that wanted to speak on this one?
Oh. Eric, thank you. I'll wake up here in a minute. I didn't have anybody that signed up to testify in this matter. This is a public hearing. Is there anybody who wishes to testify in this matter that didn't get a chance to sign in? Guess not. Perfect, thank you.
I move we close the public hearing and move to deliberation.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded. Any discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Anybody have anything? I move we approve case number 24-07-AN.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded for approval. Any further discussion on that motion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. All right, that takes us to, was item 6C, now is item 7A. It's a reconsideration hearing for case number 2401 CPM and 2401 ZC Rezone, Gemstone Technology Park. This is a hearing, but it's not a public hearing. So we will hear evidence from the protestant, the petitioner, I guess, first, and then we will hear a presentation from the applicant next. If the so those will be 10-minute time blocks. If the petitioner wishes time for rebuttal, you can shave a little time off of your presentation and save that for the end. So, for example, if you would like, you can take 7 minutes to present and then save 3 minutes for rebuttal. So, first up, we have, I believe, Douglas Waterman. Button on the base of the, there you go.
Good evening, Mayor Council. If I could, I'm going to do 5 and 5. Yeah, thank you much. Mayor and Council, my name is Douglas Waterman. My address is 1303 12th Avenue Road in Nampa, Idaho, 83686, and I represent Mr. Thornton. While other individuals did join in this request for reconsideration, tonight I only represent specifically the Thorntons. With your permission, I will be addressing the primary argument in the request for reconsideration in my first 5 minutes. I will be reserving my remaining time for addressing the written comments and other comments from Mr. Clark following his remarks. I want to start by resetting the scene here slightly, as I believe Mr. Clark's letter in response to this request has cast this request in a somewhat inaccurate light. Mr. Clark referred to this request for reconsideration as a scorched earth tactical maneuver, which is not a fair way to characterize an interested person's request to review a land use hearing for conformity with the law. The applicable Idaho Code and CUNA City Code permit an interested person to request reconsideration following a land use hearing. While it may have been some time since the city of CUNA received such a request, these are relatively commonplace. The legislature has determined that it's advantageous to the state that the city councils and county commissions in Idaho would have an opportunity to identify issues with the hearing and to deliberate and decide whether those issues that were presented justified a rehearing. Requests for reconsideration are submitted regularly throughout the state to the various cities and counties. This particular request does not constitute an insult to the city of CUNA or an affront to its council staff. Mr. Thornton's attempt to draw this council's attention to a statutory requirement is not outrageous, nor is it a slight to the city of CUNA, its council, or the applicant. The Idaho Code on Conflicts of Interest in Land Use Hearings is relatively plain. It states that an individual with a conflict should declare the conflict and refrain from participation. It includes in the definition of a conflict an instance where an employee or employer has a financial interest in the procedure or action. Note, it does not require a financial interest in the application itself. It's more broad than that. It simply requires an economic interest in the procedure or action. Lane Thornton owns the property to the west of the proposed Gemstone Technology Park, and he operates agricultural activities there. Again, as stated in the request for reconsideration, he shares approximately 1.3 miles of boundary with the park. He isn't just a neighbor or an individual who lives in the vicinity. 1.3 miles of frontage of his 300 acres of property share an immediate boundary with the proposed park. The majority of those 1.3 miles of frontage include a road which sits between his property and the park. The Thorntons own the property personally and operate a significant part of their agricultural activities personally. Mr. Thornton has articulated at various hearings he has attended what his economic interests are that are directly impacted by the application. That testimony is part of the record in this matter, including, for example, the impact of the significant land use change inherent in a rezone from agricultural or residential to industrial, on the value of his property and the traffic impacts to his property and agricultural operations, both in the short term from the significant construction traffic and in the long term when the construction ceases. Also incorporated in the request for reconsideration was the testimony of the other individuals owning property in that area, which are all part of the record for this application. It's not necessary that the written requests for reconsideration re-enumerate all of those, or that I do so now. Ultimately, the law does not require that Thornton own an actual interest in the application itself, and it's difficult to imagine a circumstance where a neighboring property owner could be more directly economically impacted by an application than in the present case, given the length of the boundary between his property and the applicant's. Councilor McPherson is employed by Mr. Thornton personally, which is to say he's employed by the same individual who owns the property that creates the present conflict of interest. Under the applicable Idaho Code, at the beginning of the hearing on this application before the City Council, the conflict should have been identified, and Councilor McPherson should have recused himself. By way of example, it's my understanding that when this application was before the Planning and Zoning Commission, Commissioner Dana Hennis recused himself because his property is also immediately adjacent to the property covered by the application, and he wanted to avoid a conflict of interest. What Thornton is asserting is simply that Councilor McPherson should have done the same. No more, no less. Ultimately, Councilor McPherson didn't recuse himself, and there's no allegation that he did so maliciously or that he knowingly violated the statute. But the cause for the error is not significant. What is significant is that his participation is prohibited by the applicable code, and as a consequence, the council should set this matter for a rehearing. And Councilor McPherson should abstain from that rehearing. Again, no more, no less. For these reasons and all those set out in the request for reconsideration, I respectfully ask that the request for reconsideration be granted. Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you.
Heath Clark, yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Heath Clark, 251 East Front Street in Boise, representing the applicant. I've been handling land use cases for about 20 years at this point. And over that time, I've heard about everything that you could hear from neighbors who are trying to stop an application. And the council's aware of all of that. You hear that you're going to ruin my view. You hear that you're changing the area, that the roads can't handle it. As time's gone by, I've tried to become empathetic to those folks. And, they're trying to defend the property that is oftentimes their primary asset. So try to take all of that with a grain of salt and understand it with a little bit of empathy. Tonight, you're confronted with something that I think is very different and something that I think is a lot uglier. Mr. Thornton opposed this application at every step. Now, in a sudden reversal, he claims that the application would be a benefit to his property, and as a result, there's a conflict of interest. And the motivations are obvious. He's not suddenly concerned about conflicts of interest generally in the city. He's not an ethics watchdog looking out for the community. This is self-interest. He will still, even with that benefit that he now claims, wants the application to be denied. This is not out of the goodness of anyone's heart. This is a tactical approach. And what it is it's an employer willing to accuse his employee of a misdemeanor in order to get what he wants, which is to intimidate someone into recusing themselves from participating in these proceedings. It's as simple as that. So let's talk about the process and then let's talk about the law. As the council is aware, this application was very thoroughly vetted. One of the main items was the development agreement are showing that we had satisfied that development agreement. That development agreement is applicable to Mr. Thornton's property as well. This applicant went through all the hoops, entered agreements with the school, police, and fire, did everything that was requested of it. And this council ultimately decided that the DA had been satisfied, and I think to decide otherwise would likely violate the DA. Now, in voting for the application, what we've learned is that Councilmember McPherson put his community's interests above his own when he voted against what his employer desired. His reward is, again, now to be accused of a misdemeanor for benefiting Mr. Thornton by how? Voting contrary to his stated wishes. Now, there are all sorts of logical and evidentiary problems with his argument. Yes, the properties are adjacent, but that's the most we can say. Mr. Thornton failed to put any evidence in the record as to a monetary impact on his property, either positive or negative. Frankly, his opposition is the only thing that's in the record, which itself would disprove a benefit to the property. But the primary point remains that there's no conflict of interest because Mr. Thornton does not have an immediate or direct interest in the outcome of the proceeding. Mr. Thornton's property is not part of this application. This application changes nothing in terms of the zoning or the potential uses of his property. It grants him no new entitlements. Any change in use or zoning requires new applications, new public hearings, and because that same DA is in place, it requires agreements with all of those relevant agencies. None of that has happened. So put differently, if Mr. Thornton was negotiating with a potential purchaser, he couldn't look at that purchaser and say, hey, Gemstone got X, you're entitled to the same thing. He would not be able to put that in a contract. In fact, what he would say is, our neighbor did X, you're gonna have to jump through the same hoops if you wanna be able to have that same sort of increase in value in this property. His buyer would certainly add entitlement contingencies to that contract. So what does that mean? That means that any potential change in the use or the value of Mr. Thornton's property is speculative. The most that he can say is that it's possible that there would be a change in value, and that's not enough for a conflict of interest. Here's the difference. If our approval is upheld, we have an entitlement. We can go to work, we can start a data center, we can make money on this property. Mr. Thornton, meanwhile, has no rights and makes no money based on the direct or immediate results of our approval. Again, there are intervening factors between our approval and any benefit to him. And because there is no conflict of interest, there is no automatic recusal requirement. Instead, this should be handled just like any other situation where you talk about a bias. If we have property that's somewhere in the area of an application, what we typically do is we say, hey, I live in the area. I think I can be unbiased on this. I'm just gonna let everybody know that I'm there, but that's not an automatic recusal situation. that question of bias has been answered emphatically, and if there was bias to be had, it would have gone the other way. It would have been Councilmember McPherson folding to the pressure of his employer in voting against the application, not in voting for it. So, in 20 years, you know, I'm not sure I've seen that kind of pressure put on someone. I would like to think that our council members all throughout the valley, would have that same kind of integrity to put the city's interests above their own, even in the face of pressure by folks who have that kind of interest in them. So there was no wrongdoing, there was no conflict of interest. Councilmember McPherson should be congratulated, not threatened, and this reconsideration should be denied. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Mayor Council, thank you again. Again, my name is Douglas Waterman. My address is 1303 12th Avenue Road, Nampa, Idaho 83686. First, it's necessary for the purpose of the record for me just to add the objection as to the participation of Councilor McPherson in this request for reconsideration. So just so that's on the record. Next, I want to address some of Mr. Clark's written comments he just made here. Mr. Clark has alleged that Thornton has asserted that the decision benefits him, which is incorrect. However, more significantly, Mr. Clark is focused on the benefit or harm of the decision. As stated in the request for reconsideration, the applicable code doesn't permit a wait and see if the vote helps or harms to find out if conflict exists. Instead, thankfully for the elected official's sake, it just removes the necessity to speculate about what an employer may or may not want and simply requires non-participation. Any other reading of that statute would create confusion and significant practical issues. Next, Mr. Clark has asserted that Thornton has accused Councilor McPherson of a misdemeanor, which is incorrect. In order for a misdemeanor to be committed, a council member must know they are violating the code, which has not been alleged. It's alleged that Councilor McPherson knew who his employer was, but that's different from knowing that his employment created a formal conflict of interest under the applicable statute. Additionally, it wasn't Mr. Thornton's decision that the state code includes a misdemeanor as a penalty, and construing Mr. Thornton's request arising out of a conflict of interest, the way anyone else would raise a conflict of interest issue, as tantamount to a criminal charge, is false and unfair. As to the assertion that there's no evidence in the record of a direct economic interest in these matters, that is incorrect, and I refer you again to the full record, all the testimony and written comments in this matter. To help clarify the point, if a councilor, one of you, owned property sharing 1.3 miles of frontage with the proposed park, there'd be no confusion or doubt as to whether you would recuse yourself, just as Commissioner Hennis recused himself. That recusal wouldn't be based on how you might or might not vote, but based simply on the existence of the economic interest in the hearing. The applicable law treats Councilor McPherson as an employee of the landowner as if he is the landowner for the purpose of the conflict of interest statute. It's just how that law operates. As I stated during my opening remarks, the memorandum accompanying Thornton's request for reconsideration does not contain the malice that Mr. Clark seems to be reading into it. It's difficult to imagine a more plain and simple statement of an alleged statutory violation than the one you have before you. And I hope you consider this on its merits and not in the light that's been cast upon it. I also want to note that the primary case cited by Mr. Clark concerning the necessity for an immediate or direct economic conflict of interest was in a circumstance where the mayor was alleged to have a conflict based essentially on prior statements and actions about land use policy generally. That obviously in that instance was over attenuated. That's not a conflict of interest, but that's very dissimilar from the present circumstance. Mr. Clark seems to be arguing that the only circumstance where a conflict can arise is when the decision maker has a direct interest in the application, like owns the property that the application is for. And that's just not what the law says. If the legislature had desired to limit the scope of the conflict of interest statute to that, it certainly could have done so, but it didn't. Instead, it requires only an interest in the proceeding or action. Most importantly, from the response from Mr. Clark as well as his testimony here, I want to read a line from the bottom of the first page and from the second page of his written comments. Quote, with regard to Councilmember McPherson in particular, and given what has transpired, it's clear he put the interests of his community above his own personal interests, end quote. And reading at the bottom of the second page, there's no conflict of interest. Instead, this is an improper attack on the integrity of a council member who, as shown by this proceeding, was willing to put the city's interests above his own, end quote. Setting aside, as I already have, that this is in no way an attack on Councilor McPherson's integrity. He's not being accused of committing a misdemeanor. What is significant is that Mr. Clark states that McPherson, quote, was willing to put the city's interests above his own, end quote. This is exactly the point, and it's the exact circumstance the law seeks to avoid, which is a council member weighing direct personal interests with the interests of the city. The law in the state of Idaho seeks to relieve council members from the uncomfortable situation of being asked to decide land use matters where they or their parents or their siblings or their employees or their employers have an interest in the outcome. If we find ourselves analyzing whether the vote of a council member served or did not serve the interests of their parent or their employer or the city as a whole, we've already trod into the mess that the law protects us from mucking about in. Mr. Clark may have made that point better than I have, albeit inadvertently. But what's obvious is that, may I have 10 seconds to wrap up? I don't believe we used all 5 minutes. Oh, sorry, 30 seconds, I'll be very quick. Councilman McPherson had a conflict of interest as defined in the statute from the outset and should not have participated in the deliberations. The ultimate way in which he voted was what motivated his choice, whether he behaved commendably, they're not at issue here. The law requiring recusal in the event of a conflict of interest doesn't have an exception for admirable behavior. It simply requires recusal and non-participation. For these reasons, I renew my appeal to you that the request for reconsideration be granted. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, council, so we have three options here. One is if you take no action and you make no motion, then the reconsideration will be deemed denied after the expiration of the 60 days that it was submitted. Option two is you can move to deny the petition, at which point the staff will need to prepare a written decision for the reconsideration and that decision. And we will need to have a special meeting to meet that timeline that would happen on or before August 1st, I believe. Your third option is to move to grant the petition, and same thing there as far as needing to have a meeting after a written decision is made. The other item on that one, though, is we would have to determine how far back we're reconsidering. If it goes clear back to the planning and zoning public hearing, planning and zoning deliberations only, council public hearing, or council deliberations only. And I guess I would think that because of the complaint, the council deliberations only would be how far we'd want to go back, but that's ultimately up to you. So that's our three options. And time for deliberation from council. I guess my thought is that we all are tasked with coming to these meetings, and when we have a public hearing, we are supposed to come in with an open mind, listen to the evidence presented at the public hearing, and if we don't feel that we can make a fair and unbiased decision because of some circumstance, then we need to recuse ourselves. Councilmember McPherson has done that in the past when he felt that there was something outstanding. And so in my mind, unless there's actually something in your mind that makes you think that you can't be fair and unbiased, then I don't see the conflict of interest. So that's my thoughts. I think that Greg's always done a good job with that, so.
Can I add to that?
Yes.
Okay, so a couple things. Never in 10 years have I had to shoulder so much, but here we go. First of all, I've never felt threatened or bullied by my employer, just for the record for that. It was brought up between those two going back and forth. That has never been the case. Probably 50% of the applications I've seen in 10 years has been a neighbor to farm my farm, or somebody I know selling their farm and to a development and going forward. I mean, if there'd be a conflict every single time. I've known too many people in this town. And, you know, I would have to recuse myself half the time on these meetings. I just will not be on council if that were the case. I mean, I know the Yamamoto family very well, and I am employed by the Thornton family. So, you know, and, let's see, I think I've always done best, or done what I felt was best for the city. I mean, I've approved stuff that I didn't like, but it was a good fit. It met code, it met, you know, all the laws of land use and yada, yada, yada. And it wasn't always the popular vote. And now with different city code, we were able to shut some things down because of overcapacity or schools or whatever. But I feel like I've always done the best decision I could with the evidence that was given on the night of a meeting. They brought up a point about one of the planning and zoning commissioners recusing himself. I feel that's a lot different of a situation. He owns property next to the ground being purchased by Diode. I'm an employee, and per Idaho code, whatever it is, I'll get to it here, give me a second. 76-60506. I don't have a conflict under this, and it's case law. You can look it up later if you want, but in seeking private counsel, not through our city legal counsel, it was deemed by the attorney that I did not in fact have a conflict, and I did what I felt was in the best interest of the city, and I moved forward. Again, I was never bullied by either side, especially my employer. That's, I don't know where that came from, but that needs thrown out. That's ridiculous. Also, I need to include that I guess I didn't ever feel there was an economic benefit one way or the other to my employer. He was never offered this ground for purchase or lease, for that matter. So maybe this could have all been resolved if that would have happened back in time. But that was never an option. They just moved forward with selling it potentially to Diode, and here we are. So chew on all that and go.
Well, and I'll throw my 2 cents in. I trust your integrity. I've known you for years. And I don't think you would cross that line. That's my personal opinion, and actually my professional opinion. Your integrity is beyond reproach. I don't believe, from what I've heard, that there is a conflict for you. You voted to do the best thing for the city. I would probably be more worried if you would have voted against it. Then it'd be interesting if there'd be somebody up there doing a reconsideration because the shoe's on the other foot now. And just because I know we've been using the word employee a lot, but I guess common sense also tells me that you can't vote for who you want for in elections. I know that's a far reach, but that's still, this is a different forum. You have a right as a citizen and part of this council to make integrity decisions based on what's best for us, not an individual. Thank you.
I voted no against the project originally. My basis for the no was because it didn't feel like it was enough time. It was a huge project to take on with 3 days, and two of the days that we get to read and look on this was over a weekend. So it really had nothing to do with anything about Councilman McPherson and a conflict of interest. That's just kind of out of my mind. But going back to it, the project itself, there's so many people who have come forward and mentioned things that there were even people out in the hallway. There were we had standing room only, and it wasn't even enough there. That was why I voted no originally. So I'm just gonna state that it has nothing to do with Councilman McPherson. I trust him.
I can only look at, what I would do myself, right? We're all responsible for our own decisions. I probably would have recused myself just to not deal with the headache. It would have been easier for me than having all this, so.
If ever there was a meeting, I wish I would have been gone.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah, and there's, in my industry, there comes up with developments and stuff with the job that I have in mortgage, so that I would probably have recused myself. So, just to make it easier down the road, I can only speak of what I would have done, so. What do you guys want to, what would you like to do? I mean, because I think it comes down to, we'll be in the same decision if we vote again to give a reconsideration, it'd be a split vote. I'm assuming tiebreaker, and then if you don't recuse yourself again, we'll be back in the same vote, in a few weeks. So, I don't know, can I phone a friend? Or phone, not a friend, but, well, I guess a friend. Whatever we decide going here, it wouldn't be a city issue if we decided to give it a rehearing or we just let it die, and then whatever the two parties decided, if they pursued it another matter, they would deal with that on their own, or I just don't want to get into the same loop to where we're doing this over and over again.
Mark Bybee, City Attorney. Councilmember Bruce, are you asking kind of what the process looks like from this moment, like depending on your decision? Is
Right,
that what you're getting at?
because I think we'll probably be the same vote over and over again.
Meaning if it were reconsidered, you went back, reconsidered, voted, yeah, I get what
Right,
you're
because
saying.
we can't require a councilman to recuse himself.
No, you can't. You
Right.
can't force a council member to recuse themselves. That's a decision they have to make.
Okay.
And, they should obtain advice on it. It sounds like, full disclosure, I think I told the mayor this, I don't know if the board knows. I contacted Jared and also an attorney and asked that attorney to give advice. So the advice he received was from an attorney that the city contracted with for a specific purpose, but it was not with my office. But the attorney was Phil Harrington, practices out of North Idaho. But yeah, I as far as procedure goes, I just don't see, like if you vote again, just to get back to this point, you don't want to get caught in that cycle.
Right.
If you let's say you took action to deny tonight or no action at all, and it's deemed denied by no action, at that point, a clock is going to start for either party to seek, it's not reconsideration, judicial review. That's essentially the point at which it would leave the jurisdiction of the city for further process and become within the jurisdiction of the court. This is kind of this reconsideration is kind of the last point at which the city would have, jurisdiction to do something different with its decision than what it's already done. Does that make sense?
Well, I guess my question to you is, are we here about the project, or are we here about him not recusing himself or recusing himself? I mean, that seems like where we're at here. The letter is strictly about, should he have recused himself?
Yeah.
Not the project or the development.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about, just whether he should recuse himself or not.
Okay.
And what he's saying is that's his decision, so if we were to hear it again, I'm assuming it would be 3-2, and then we would get stuck in a cycle, so.
I would agree with that, yes. If let's say you vote to approve this reconsideration and then you designated, we are going to go back to our council deliberations that happened after the public hearing and re-deliberate. I think the indication is here from what Councilman McPherson has done is that he would again participate in those deliberations on whether or not, you should change the reason to statement a decision that you issued. And so the probability that, and with no changed evidence, the sole issue on this reconsideration was conflict of interest. It wasn't an attack on the merits of the decision. I think it's unlikely your decision would change in that circumstance. And so you'd go back, do a process, issue potentially the same decision and be back where we are. And I guess it is possible your decision could change in those circumstances. It just seems improbable.
I think our best option is to take no action, let it die. That's my opinion.
And let me clarify, when you say take no action, I believe we should deny the letter of reconsideration and move forward. If that's the same statement, yes.
The difference in those two statements is that Mayor is saying take no action, and then they're by operation of law, because the statute says after 60 days, if you take no action, it is deemed denied, the request for reconsideration. Whereas if you make a motion for denial, the process is that staff will prepare a decision on reconsideration that summarizes your decision, or that basically puts into writing your decision, and you will need to adopt that denial decision before the 60-day deadline. So that's the different things that would happen.
Okay.
And then if we were to vote, on a motion to reconsider it, then we would decide where it goes back. And I would only vote for that because I would recuse myself. But I think what we're saying is it would be in a 3-2 vote either way. So that's why the mayor's saying we should take no action. Because if we vote to deny it, we have to have a special meeting. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I think August 1st would be our deadline to get this decided on, and so, because I think that's a 60-day period, so it would have to be August 1st or before.
Yep, Mark Bybee again, city attorney. So I plugged it into this dates calculator. I think the 60th day from the date the request for reconsideration was filed happens on a weekend, and so I recommended to Mayor, if we were to do this, that we'd enter a decision before that weekend. I think it's August 2nd is actually the 60th day, so let's do the decision by August 1st, essentially.
Either way, I think it had the same result, so I agree with that. I just think no action is the best way to go.
And I'll just put on the record that I would rather see a reconsideration and leave it at that. Because we'll just still have the same vote totals, and anyone else can speak for themselves.
I would say the same.
No action.
So then, Mr. Martin, do you need anything from us, a motion, or just, we're just gonna leave it at that and move on?
If you're gonna let this die as by operation of law, then don't make a motion. If somebody thinks you need to make a motion, make a motion. That's where you're at.
So then, just for the record, I'll ask, is there a motion? And if you don't have one?
I make a motion that we take no action.
That's a weird motion. I'd just recommend just letting it die if that's your motion, Councilman Laraway.
All right. That puts that to sleep. Item 7B is tentative budget presentation. Jared Empey. If anything, I would make a motion. Vote of confidence
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Jared Empey, City Treasurer. Tonight, we have before you the tentative budget. So as you all know, over the past few meetings, we've gone over budget considerations in workshop format, in which we've been able to discuss many items related to our budget. Tonight is the tentative budget. And then we have scheduled with Ada County to have our budget hearing in the second meeting in August. So before you, so every time we have a tentative budget, there's always some updates. And so as you can see, there's a few updates from the budget workshop numbers. There was a total top line number change of about 0.57%. based on some true-ups and a few other items. And so, going to page 2, some of those items that were trued up were payroll. So we had 4 positions that we were able to fill that beforehand were just estimates. So we had a sewer 1 operator, a sewer technician, an accounting specialist, and then we hired an economic development administrator. So those were some good wins for the city, and hopefully we'll do a great job. Also, we had an immaterial employee raise that came through since the budget workshop, and we were able to finalize the cost of living adjustment. We had estimated it would be 2.46%, but it came in at 2.41, so pretty close. Then some other items that we had were capital expenditures. So one of those was found in Fund 40, so that's called the Capital Projects Fund. This is essentially an extension of the general fund, in that these are the capital projects that governmental activities perform. So one of those is the council chambers building that will go in front of City Hall. As part of that, we had originally thought that the work would be done mainly would basically be split about 50-50 between fiscal 25 and then fiscal 26. However, in meeting with the architecture team and the contractor on a weekly basis, it was pretty clear that we weren't going to get started as early as we thought, and that as such, we should probably shift some more expense from 25 to 26 in order to make sure that we had budget capacity for the construction of that building. As such, at the workshop, we had estimated 1.2 million in fiscal 26. However, due to some delays in the various construction timelines, we put that at 2.2 million. Again, this didn't change how much we were actually going to spend total on the construction of the building. It just shifted the timing of those cash flows. Then a second item was that we had originally thought about buying a dump truck. The reason being is because we purchased a dump truck a couple years ago, and the parks guys had noticed that it wasn't getting enough power, and it was determined that it had a fuel leak on it. And at first we thought, well, maybe we better buy a new one just to be safe, but in getting a second opinion, we were able to decide that for the time being it was cheaper to repair the truck. And so at the workshop, we had 300,000 scheduled, and for the tentative budget that goes down to 0 because we decided to fix rather than buy new. We think that we could squeeze some more life out of the truck before we need to buy anything new, and so that'll affect Fund 40 and the Park Impact Fund, because we were going to split it 50-50 on that. Then 3, property tax. We got some better preliminary figures from Ada County. We won't have final numbers until the beginning of August. However, the numbers we have are pretty close. I think we've already received final new construction numbers, and I can't remember if we received ending annexation numbers, but I think that we are pretty close, and as such, we're more comfortable with the figures that we received on property taxes. As an aside, we won't be hitting the 8% maximum this year due to where the levy rate has been eroded due to House Bill 389 and just some other factors that have come about. Another item is that we were informed that many agencies within the state of Idaho are eligible for a judgment fund. Essentially what that's saying is that a court determined that certain agencies were eligible for an additional amount, probably because they went back and did some estimation with some utility providers such as Idaho Power or Intermountain Gas, and so that was an extra $17,000. And then there's an addition of the occupancy tax. So the occupancy tax is is still property tax, however, it's for properties that come in after the initial assessment time. And so then the final item is the police budget. So the police budget was originally, let's see, looks like I flipped those numbers just in this outline, but at the workshop, it was 5.2 million, and at the tentative budget, it's essentially 5 million. So with that, I just wanted to see if you had any questions. Oh, also, we added some updated schedules for cash flows based on this. And we also added an updated schedule showing what the police services would be as a percentage of the property tax. As a reminder, before we updated what the police budget was for fiscal '26, we were over 100%. Now we're at about 97%. So essentially a marginal improvement there. Then we have a transfer summary that the council had requested a couple times back, just showing essentially where some of the funds would be transferred between funds. So one of those transfers is between the general fund and government and essentially the capital projects fund. This is a standard accounting for the capital projects fund. Then we have a reimbursement of the sewer fund for the Mason Creek work. And then we have a reimbursement to the general fund for the police station out of the police impact fund. So essentially those are the updates. Not a whole lot to address that we haven't already, but I guess the action point that we would have tonight would be to seek to be able to approve the tentative budget and also publish for our budget hearing. So stand for any questions.
Okay. And the public hearing on the budget was August?
Second week of August,
Second meeting in August.
Second week of,
Yeah.
So we need to get that advertised here real
Yep.
quick, so.
Yep, that'll be in the next
Where did
week
that
or so.
point? Yeah, that sounds right.
well, I appreciate, Mr. Mayor, I appreciate you going back in and updating all those and adding the transfer numbers that we requested. Did you guys have any other questions?
I can't question his numbers, he knows them way better than I do.
Yeah, me too. I guess, you know, at the end of the day, just like we've been talking about the last 3 times, I think the last 3 meetings is that bottom line number, the budget last year versus this year is such a big disparity. That's kind of a hard pill to take for somebody who's uneducated. But that's where I'm also looking at the rate increases. The 3% max new construction makes definitely sense. But the others, I don't know, it'd be nice to provide some extra relief other than what's coming from the state, in property tax.
Are we still rolling over the same number from the end of the budget that we were before?
So if you're,
22 million.
Councilman Bruce, are you referring to
I think it was
what our
22.
estimated carryover is going to be in each
Yes, sir.
fund? Yeah, those haven't changed.
And then what will give that hold on, I'll find it. Okay, I understand what you're saying. And we'll still have, once we have our public hearing, if any other numbers need to be adjusted, we can discuss that then? Or is this kind of,
Yeah, so essentially at the tentative budget, that's when, you know, we as staff say, we're good, essentially. We're not gonna make any more changes on the staff end, and we're just seeking approval to go out for publication for it.
and if, I know we're taking you said we're taking the 3% property tax?
Yes, that's
and
correct.
5% in new construction?
Well, this year we won't hit the 5% mark on, with new construction and, with the, with any annexation. The reason being is just because of the formula doesn't, provide for it.
And I know that, and we had kind of discussed this, that we increased to 3% just because it compounds. You know, we're limited with House Bill 389 that if you, and I talked to other commissioners as well, if you don't take it, it ends up hurting you in the long run. But with that amount of carryover, could we redistribute back that $5 million that we're taking in property tax back to people out of the 22 that we're carrying over?
Councilman Bruce, so if I understand correctly, I mean, we don't have what other agencies have in the sense that other agencies have essentially amounts that they haven't taken in the past and that they want to take now.
Okay.
The carryover is simply cash that we have on hand or that we're estimating to have on hand at year end that we're reserving for savings or for investment purposes to essentially subsidize the activities of the city.
And is that in addition to what we already have in those accounts?
So,
Or is that just saying after it's all said and done, that you're including that cash, you know, the cash that we have now, in that 22 million?
so essentially, we expect the general fund to have $22 million at the end of fiscal '25. And then we expect that balance to roll over to fiscal '26 that we'd use for essentially asset replacement. We'd use it for earning interest in order to further our goals and aims. So for instance, that 22 million, if I scroll down in the general fund, we have interest revenue that we've assumed would be about 700,000. The reason being is because we expect interest rates to decline slightly in fiscal '26 due to statements made by the Federal Reserve.
And, you know, the reason I was asking is because like Councilman Biggs said, is just the number and how it's increased. Last year, I didn't want to take the 3% in property tax increase. I'd rather not take it again this year, just with the nature of our economy. And if we did take, we could essentially roll 17 million over and either take the 3% and give it back to them in property tax, so we wouldn't be collecting that. I mean, it's essentially up to us with what we want to roll over and carry. I know Biggs, Councilman Biggs, and I'm posing this question to you as well. What's your thoughts? I know you had a problem with the number as well as a whole and explaining it to the community. Most of our income that we have is from other, not just property taxes, from other revenue that we collect.
Yeah, the average person walking on the street that has mentioned this to me, you know, when we talked about this, the couple people I've talked to said, wow, that's a huge increase. Why? And I can't explain it as well as Jared can.
Well, we have other revenues other than property tax. I just think that's one that hits our community the most is property tax
And when they
continually.
see, every year they come back and see.
Well, and so I think also when House Bill 389 of 2021 took effect, some cities were saying within 3 years or within 2 years, that's really gonna hit us hard. Jared had said it's probably gonna be 5 or 6 years before we really feel the effect, and that's because of our position at that time. But that's gonna continue to compound. And so, in order to stay with Jared's projection of where House Bill 389 is gonna really start pulling our teeth, we really need to keep on track with what Jared's been projecting and how we're getting there. So, we do have some carryover, but that's gonna dwindle as each year progresses in this compound, so that's the danger with not taking it.
Well,
Not
and-
saying you can't, I'm just saying that's.
Yeah, and I wouldn't.
That's why we are where we are.
Right, and I know that's what I was speaking about earlier, is if we don't take the 3%, then next year when you increase that, you're taking 3% of a lesser value, because you didn't grow your budget that much. But if we would essentially just be returning the property tax increase back to the taxpayer. So you would still fall within that increment that we took, but that may be for another discussion, so. Anybody want to make a motion to approve the tentative budget?
I was gonna ask one more thing, the Key Bank, that's almost to an end, right?
We've got another, year and a half, I think.
Yeah, so, Councilman Bruce, Biggs. So, we're finalizing what everything will be for Q2 of 2025, this week. However, the preliminary number is that, we owe about 750 EDUs to, Key Bank. And, with our current growth rate, that'll probably be, extinguished within about a year to 2 years maximum.
And that's all rolled into your projection for, well, like we were saying, planning for the future.
Yeah, definitely. So that would most acutely affect two funds. That would most acutely affect the latecomers fund, and it would most acutely affect the sewer fund.
Thank you.
Anything, John? Nothing? No?
Numbers aren't my forte.
If we got you stumped, I'm making a motion. I gotta get to the right page to do it, though. I would move we approve the tentative budget as presented.
You want to second it, John?
Well, not if you two have a big objection to it. I mean, it makes no sense.
Yeah,
We're either okay with it or we're not.
I mean, yeah, I just, again, we get back to the number that we're increasing from the time that you and I started on this council. It's just a lot to me. It's a lot to process.
But we're growing as a city, we're not going down.
Yeah, I
You know,
get it.
and
but-
everything costs more. A blower goes out at the treatment plant, that's 300 grand. A lift station crashes, you're $1 million.
Well, you're talking
We're gonna-
$150 million. That's what you're, $150 million.
What's the average age of the infrastructure in this town?
We-
Older than you, buddy.
We spent
It's a
112 million,
lot.
we spent 112 million last year and we were okay. How do we
That
add,
was last
how
year.
do we add $40 million more?
You didn't get a speeding ticket last year, what about next year? You can't predict that, man.
I mean, we can agree to disagree, right? Because
Absolutely,
a
absolutely.
government can always find a way to spend money, and
Well, sure.
that's the thing, is at some point, we should say, hey, let's not take the property tax increase from the people, let's work with what we have. And I get what you're saying, but government can always find a way to spend money. And so we just have differing opinions on it. That's all I'm saying.
And I think there's been years where we haven't taken increments and increases and stuff, and then 2 years later, we're like, oh, we gotta catch up a little bit from
Well,
that.
speaking from my experience, which is very limited, I've only been here the least amount of time, we've taken the max every time, so I can't speak, you've been here a lot longer, so. And you've been here a lot longer.
And this is not to,
But my property taxes have gone down every year.
it's because the
Well,
state gives us,
state-
yeah.
Yeah, there's been from the state and even the county, I think, have contributed to that, was, I guess, what I was mentioning earlier.
I think Ada
But
County,
if you guys have a different suggestion and bring it up, we don't wanna wait until the very end to
Well, I think I
go
mentioned.
backwards here, so.
I think I mentioned at the last meeting, I mean, some kind of relief would be nice. I don't know if taking the entire property tax back, but taking part, maybe not taking the full 3%.
What would
That
you
would-
suggest?
Well, I'm not making a motion, but I'm just saying, what if we did 2%? What if we did 1.5%? I don't know, that's something. I don't know.
What are your thoughts? Because obviously, if, it hinges on you.
Not really. I understand what I'm trying to, I know where we're at now. And the projection is always a hit and miss. But with, like you said, in 3 years from now, when some of these other things start to fall into place, and we're gonna start losing some of that budget money, are we gonna come out ahead, or, because the worst case scenario, 3 years from now, we have to raise taxes because we're out of our funds.
We're raising taxes every year.
Yeah.
We're raising taxes and we're raising utility rates every year for 4 years now. I get it. We're a growing city, and I'm not arguing with you. I think we just see it differently.
In my original argument, back to the 27 million, 29 million difference between last year and this was, percentage-wise, is that how much it grew? You know, or is there projected, building that's gonna equal about that percentage? That was, and that's in my very, very basic layman,
I think we're
thoughts.
growing 8% per year, which would account for what, the 3 and the 5.
Well, so if you don't take, if you only take 2% instead of 3%, you can get back 1% if you change your mind next year and decide that we really should have taken it. Anything beyond that, you can't take it.
You take the foregone the year after, right?
So if that works for you, we can go that way.
And I guess my last 2 sentences, he's got a motion on the floor. If you have a better one, I'm listening.
I'd just assume that we go into the public hearing with some kind of a consensus. 'Cause I don't wanna get to the point where we get into a public hearing and at the end of the public hearing, we're voting no on the entirety of a budget because there's one point we don't like. I think we need to get to that common ground here so that we're all at least in somewhat of an agreement. Because I just don't like saying
Right.
no to the entirety of an entire budget because we didn't want to take a full 3% or whatever the case is, because it's a lot more complicated than just that one point. So I think it's better if we're kind of together on this, especially where it comes to
Yeah.
budget.
1.5 or 2, what do you agree? And then that gives us next year, if, yeah, I don't know that we'll be here, but you guys could take the foregone if you wanted.
Well, 1.5, we can't recoup 1.5 next year though, right?
Yeah, whatever you don't
We
take
can't,
up to
Mr. Mayor. We can't
I
recoup one. We can only
think
recoup
the law is you can only recoup one.
So, Jared, NPC Treasurer, so what you can do is you can take a 1% increase the following year and add it to your budget as part of the base.
As the foregone?
Yeah.
So then we'll,
Keep it simple, then do it that way.
we'll just take 2% on the property tax instead of the 3. Are you okay with that?
Make the motion.
We still have a motion on the table, so.
Motion dies, no second.
You can make competing motions and see which one gets a second. That's acceptable.
We'll make a secondary motion and vote on it first.
How would I state this motion, Mr. Counselor there?
Sorry, is your intended motion that you're trying to essentially amend the tentative budget to be like based on a 2%? Like,
Property tax increase instead of the 3.
Just like that, sounds.
yeah, I guess 'cause the only question I'd have is to Jared, is does that require more line item adjustment that needs to specify out? Or is that something you just as the treasurer need to sort through if you're being told only budget for a 2% increase is just trickle down effect essentially through the budget at that point?
Yeah, so, the way that would work is, I just go back through the calculator, that the county provides us, and that would only change one line item. It would change, hopefully I don't, go to the wrong page. So it would change this line item here. Basically, let's see, so prior year, 49 million, so that would essentially cut off, what is that? 400,000, 40,000 yeah, it would cut off about 40,000 in property tax on next year's levy amount. And we could reserve that as foregone for the next year. And the other line item that would change is it would change this schedule so that this number would be basically 98, maybe 98.5%.
So, thank you, Jared. So, Councilman Bruce, back to your question. I think the motion would probably take the form of, you'd approve the tentative budget with the adjustment of only taking a 2% property tax increase for next year.
I move we approve the tentative budget with only taking a 2% property tax increase for next year.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on that motion? All those in favor, say aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jared. Thank you for entertaining me there, gentlemen.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion of support and vote of confidence in, he doesn't really need it, I don't think, but for Councilman McPherson.
I'll second it.
Motion is made and seconded for a vote of confidence for Councilmember McPherson. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion
Oh, now the
carries.
opposed would have been
Wait a
bad
minute.
that day.
Should I-
That would have been a bad motion.
Should I recuse myself because I like him?
I appreciate that. I appreciate you. I'm sorry you've had to go through that. That's tough, I know, but.
Thanks.
So in other news, we did hire someone for economic development, but because they haven't actually been in economic development before, I didn't want to hire them as a director position. So for now, tentatively, they'll be working under Doug, and then Jessica will be working for her. But she has when you look at economic development, there's so many things, so many aspects. Realtor, banker, what else has she done? She's worked, actually, she's currently working with the chamber. So she has kind of everything, all the pieces you need, except for the fact that she hasn't actually done economic development. I'm very confident that she can do the job very well. But I thought we ought to do this as a trial basis before we actually fill that director position. So we're gonna try it and see how it goes. I think it should be fun, but.
That's this person, the Economic Development Administrator, is that her?
Yes,
Her
that's
name-
why it
her
says
title?
administrator, not director.
Pay
But,
attention to the
so that's why that one won't come before you for confirmation, until we determine whether or not that's the right fit, so.
And it won't come before us if you want to get rid of it.
Right.
Okay.
Or to keep the same position.
Yeah, that's true. That's true
I just
also.
want to know.
Well, good luck with your meeting Friday.
Yeah, thank you. I'm gonna be meeting with the other mayors in Treasure Valley, or Treasure Valley Partnership, so the other mayors in Treasure Valley, and then Ada and Canyon County Commissioners will be there also. I doubt that Hawaii County will. They don't tend to come a lot anymore, but we're gonna be talking about House Bill 389 of 2021 and kind of see what we can do to make recommendations to legislators for a way that we can see to fix that or make it better or whatever the case may be. So that's going to be an all-day event, and I think we're doing that in Stars. So Mayor Chadwick will have to provide me lunch, I guess. So
All day with Mayor Chadwick. That's
right. That's right.
Trevor.
I thought we'd do down at the River House, but I guess not. We're doing it in council chambers.
You know, that used to be a psychological place.
I know.
Counseling for troubled people.
No, their trees broke off from that windstorm. Anyway, did anybody have anything else you want to announce? Or? Okay, well then with that, meeting